Hi. It's a sunny but chilly day where I am. Lots of traffic. We live by the street. But I wanted to go over. I wanted to go over how the videos I've been playing, it's just a snapshot into some of the hardest parts of the parts that I live in this life currently. If I went back 6 years, we wouldn't be together. We were split up. But during that time, I found out that I was pregnant after 10 years of infertility. So I didn't even think I could have children. The fact that he didn't use protection with me was just showing how much he was wanting me to get pregnant when I didn't even believe I could be. At the time, I was a massage therapist, and I ate enough to sustain me for that. But during the pregnancy, it took 2 months for me to realize that I needed to check for that, because missing a period and the other symptoms going on just seemed to be similar to what was with my low thyroid issues, because my low thyroid issues were always in the reproductive system. They weren't anywhere else. I wasn't this heavy. I believe this is more of the perimenopausal issues going on with my current age. But during the pregnancy, all I wanted was produce. I was more just a vegetarian. I would lean more toward a vegan, but I didn't know how to cook for myself. I could follow directions on a box, but the rest of it just wasn't natural to me. That was something I had to learn a couple years later. Woo. Sump pump. But during it, I was highly nauseous, and that made it to where I had to cut back on doing some massage. I think I would dehydrate a little too quickly and get like really painful belly cramps during the pregnancy, so I would cut back on that. So then I went from doing about 7 massages on a normal good day to at max 4, and they could not even be the harder massages that I would give. So that cut back on my clientele base a lot. I didn't even want to let him know that I was gonna be pregnant, because how he treated me at the end of the 3 months that we dated, I just couldn't see welcoming that kind of behavior back into my life, and I feared it for a child. But something in me softened one day, and I feel like it just had to have been from the baby wanting me to reach out to the dad. So even though I'd gone no contact after that, even though he had tried to recontact me several times, all I simply did was call a meeting. So we lived 2 hours apart. We met in the middle. And I didn't even just blurt it out at first, because I didn't know if I actually did want to tell him, depending on how much of an asshole he was going to be. So eventually I didn't even tell. I just pulled up the app where I was tracking it, and it was at 15 weeks at that point. I'd known myself for, I think, maybe 4 weeks. And even for me, I needed it to go beyond where I'd miscarried in between my daughter and my son before that 10-year infertility period where I was never pregnant. So even with that, I didn't ask him if he wanted to be back in my life. I just asked him how much he wanted to be involved in hers or the baby's, because I didn't know it was a girl yet, but I felt like it was. But ultimately, because of how poorly I was feeling during the pregnancy and not being able to have as many clients as I normally did, he was working from home, and he took the opportunity to move up to where I was for us to cohabitate, because he so desperately wanted to live with somebody where I did not. And that gave me some freedom to feel like crap, but not have to stress so much about how I was going to take care of me and my son, who was 13 at the time. So not that anything was even peachy. Even while I was pregnant, he was berating me. I was constantly hearing that what I believed about what my opinions were was wrong. But I still didn't know what it was. So that's how, like, I'd always stated that I felt like because I grew up in a home where my father was physically abusive, but he was gone by the time I was 10, and my mom was emotionally and mentally abusive. And then in the middle there, I was sexually abused, but never felt safe enough to tell anybody because of how my mom was. And I didn't want my dad to either hurt me, and I didn't feel like he was the kind that would hurt me from that, but I didn't want him to go to jail or prison for killing the one that he knew was the one that did it. So I never told, but ultimately that led me to read people really poorly. Like, I get intuition hits, but I don't listen to that very often. Not as often as I should. Because even in the first 3 months with him, I definitely would have seen the signs of just really not putting in any effort for anything, letting me be the one to do absolutely everything once he was up where I was. But even after all that, I just didn't know how to read it. So I've always wanted, I'd rather somebody, if they're gonna abuse me, to just hit me instead of just make it so confusing that I don't understand what's going on. So that's, I don't know. 6 years later, we have our daughter. I think primarily I've been staying in order to make sure that she's safe because she loves Daddy. Since she was out of the womb, she really preferred Daddy. I think if he could have nursed her, she would have all been his. But she's also a little fireball that I worry about when she gets older, when her opinions are no longer just cute and they offend him, because anything I say can offend him if it's about something other than the house. I've tried to find my way out a few times. I was back at a local school, like a local university, for another degree, and then was getting into the second half of the second semester when COVID shut everything down, and having to work from home when he was working from home, and then our daughter was home, and ultimately all of her responsibilities lay on me. I just couldn't keep up with it. I would be finishing that degree this next coming month if I'd have been able to stay in that. That was one of my routes I tried to take to get away. So ultimately, I think, or I really hope, it's been a decision that I've fought with, but being that I'm now in a city that's not my city, I'm in his city, I don't have any of my support people here with me. And even with his family, it's just more messages of, I ask for too much and I'm not worth anything. I've decided that I'm gonna return to another university for a different major, one that I've wanted to do for 20 years and almost did. I was in line for it when I learned I was pregnant with my daughter. That was one of the really crappy timings of all of it. So going to school for that's going to be 2 hours from where I currently am with him. But because it has prereqs that I need to get in for it, because it's more of a medical, I'll be down there for 3 years. But I'm not taking my daughter with me. She's in line with a really good school here, and I'm hoping that since she's 5 right now, that the last couple formative years that she has are not going to be too horribly detrimental for her. But ultimately, I feel like I need to do what I need to do to be able to better provide for me and her, whether she's with me full-time or part-time, but to where I can be the better me doing something that I still love to do that provides better than massage could in its ways that's handled through workplaces. And just to get out of being here so I can get to being a better me. So if there's any interest in that, I will continue trying to vlog and show what life down there is like as an adult, return to school. Wow. And navigate being a college student. Having roommates in an apartment that's campus focused. So that's the gist of everything that's been going on and where it came from and where I think this is gonna go. Even if no one's interested, I may still post it because I haven't had a voice here, and I so miss being able to feel like I'm being heard. So even if no one watches, I feel like I'm putting that voice out there. So thanks for being on this journey if you are.